So here we are with the new Tesla Model 3. Not so new, but the variant is new. So it's the long range rear wheel drive. That means it's got a single motor, which is all geared towards efficiency and big distance, which I'll talk about more a little bit later on in the video. So this version is mainly aimed at the corporate market, and it comes with the standard aero wheels. Underneath those wheel trims are some really quite nice looking alloy wheels, so you can remove those. You lose a tiny bit of efficiency, but I wouldn't really worry about that. I'd still have the normal alloy wheels underneath rather than the aero covers. You can't have it with red paint, and you can't have it with the white interior. As you can see, it's the standard black vegan leather interior. It's all very comfortable, very well stitched together. You've got the brown wood on the dashboard, and the interior is just all black. You can't really fall out with it. Plenty of head and leg room. And then in the back, that's set for my driving position, and if I just jump in really quickly, you can see there's plenty of space there, plenty of leg room. It's all right, it's decent. Certainly enough headroom as well. I'd say if you're 6'2" or 3", you're still going to fit in this car fairly comfortably. Anything taller than that, you might be struggling for rear seat headroom. And then there's the dashboard. Yeah, you've got a big panoramic roof, although there's a structural beam there in the middle, but that doesn't detract from it. It's nice. Big pan roof going all the way over the back there, and that's a wow factor. In the back, you've got a couple of USB-Cs and air vents. You've got pockets on the back of the seats, decent door bins, and then you've got the usual button to open the door. So if you just jump back into the front of the car, you've got the same thing here, the buttons. But then interestingly, my other half, Sally, which you might have seen on a previous video, she didn't bother with the button yesterday. She just pulled this handle here to get out, which does exactly the same job. This just seems a bit pointless to me. I get the novelty, but I'm quite happy. I think it makes more sense just to have that there as a door release. I think that's actually really neat because it's well hidden, and it works exactly the same as the electric release. So if we take a look at the boot, it's nice, decent boot size. You've got split fold rear seats in there if you want a whole lot of longer stuff, although it's a saloon boot lid. So for those trips to IKEA, you are going to be fairly limited as to what you can fit in there. It's an electric boot as well. And then you've got the frunk as well, which is pretty big, and it's all like plastic lined, so you can chuck your muddy wellies in there. So what's it like to drive? It feels like every other Tesla Model 3 I've driven. This is the third or fourth one I've driven now. It's pretty smooth, it's fairly quiet, although there's some wind noise comes from there when you're at motorway speed, which isn't the end of the world, but maybe that's just this particular car because I've not noticed that on previous Teslas I've driven. You've got double glazed windows, which help keep the sound insulated as well within the car. Because it's quite a light, airy cabin, it does feel quite echoey at times. Certainly not as cosseting as other cars that I've driven in the past. But overall, I can see why people love their Teslas, because it does everything that you want it to do, and then some more as well. Bit frustrating that a lot of the features in the car, the kind of novelty features, the ones that really wow people, a lot of them are now subscription based, but that's just the way the industry is going now. Most manufacturers are going to end up doing that in the coming years. If the camera's shaking a little bit, the reason why is because I'm on a fairly ridged piece of road. It's one of those corrugated roads. I think they were in a rush to lay the tarmac on this road, and what the camera's doing, if it is shaking in image, then that's what the car feels like. For me, the suspension on this car it's not as well resolved as I think it could be or should be. It's firm, but it feels like sometimes the dampers aren't keeping up with the surface of the road, and you don't get that experience in most other legacy car manufacturers, so things like BMWs, Audis, Fords, Vauxhalls. They all seem to cope with UK roads with a little bit more panache. The Tesla just feels like it's got that last little bit of polish just missing from the ride quality, but most people won't care because it can do this. It can accelerate very hard. Even this version, the single motor, rear wheel drive, long range, 300 horsepower, but obviously the Tesla Model 3 is quite a light car for an electric car. I think around the 1600 kilo mark, maybe 1700, and it shows because it does get down the road really quickly and the pace just builds. You can feel it just starting to soften off the acceleration as you approach 70 mile an hour, which you'd expect, but most people again won't care because this car is all about the instant kind of wow factor and punch in that 0 to 30, 0 to 40 mile an hour kind of ballpark, or you're accelerating down a motorway slip road between 30 and 70. So this isn't the fastest Tesla you can buy by any stretch, but this car definitely has enough for day to day. It's certainly, you know, more than quick enough to get into serious trouble in. And it's rear wheel drive, but I've been driving it in dry weather and also rainy conditions, and at no point has it felt like giving up on grip or anything like that, even though it's running on Michelin Primacy tyres, which are renowned for offering tons of grip, although they're decent tyres. The reason why you're probably watching this video is all to do with the efficiency of the car, and it's really impressive. So right now the car's saying it's got about 185 miles worth of range remaining, and I've covered 125 miles in this car since I picked it up, so that's a total of 310 miles. Now the official range of the car, depending on where you see it, I think the official Tesla press release said up to 394 miles, but I have also spotted on Tesla's own website they're quoting 386. Now either way, that's a big mileage for an electric vehicle and really impressive. You know, if you can drive 300 or more miles without taking a 15-20 minute break to plug into a supercharger, then you're not normal. And also, if you're driving on company business, your employer probably wants to have a word with you because they'll have a duty of care concern about you if you're not stopping after 300 miles. So the reality is this car can cover massive distances, and in theory you could drive all the way from Leeds to London and maybe stop for 10 or 15 minutes at a supercharger for a quick kind of splash and dash top up, and you'd get home with plenty of battery spare as well. Not forgetting that the car, when you set the sat nav, it flags up if it thinks you're going to run out of range. It'll plumb in the supercharger stops en route as well, so that's all really clever. But yeah, the range, and I've not been trying at all. I've been doing quick bursts of acceleration. I've not been driving particularly economically. I've got lots of experience driving various electric cars day to day and also as part of my job, and I like to think I know how to get the best out of most electric cars. I certainly have seen manufacturer quoted ranges out of certain electric cars when I try hard enough, and this car, without even trying, is delivering 310 miles. I'm very confident that if I was driving a little bit more economically minded and using the battery regen features of the car the way that you should do, i.e. you turn it into coasting mode when you're on the motorway, for example, rather than using regen all the time, actually I think this car can deliver well over 350 miles with no effort at all. So how would I summarise this car? I would say overall it's really good, it's excellent, it's got good battery range, build quality is decent, or certainly this new model that's only done a couple of 100 miles seems very well screwed together. It's fast, but it does the comfortable stuff really well as well, apart from the ride being a little bit choppy, as I'm going back down the choppy road now. but I think most people would forgive it that anyway. And it's got everything you need and nothing you don't need. You may also want to look at other options on the market that might offer slightly better value for money. Stuff like the new BMW i4 35 and the Polestar 2, which are direct rivals to this car, but you might see better value for money in the private market on those cars. And actually, some Salsac and company car schemes, you may also see them pricing up a little bit more attractive at the moment. But if you're really into Tesla and you want a nice easy introduction to living with an electric car, or you might be your first electric car, this is a good place to start. There's no range anxiety in this car, absolutely none whatsoever. It's delivering battery range now which isn't really any different to probably the petrol tank of your Audi A3 or whatever it is you're in at the moment. Thanks for sticking with me and listening to this waffle. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that usual stuff. I do really appreciate it. It's also really good to get comments from you. I do try and reply to every single comment that I receive on my videos because I do want to interact, and also I want the feedback because you might have hated watching this video, in which case well done for sticking with me. But if you've enjoyed this video, tell me. If you've not liked it, if you think there's things I could improve on or things you'd want me to focus more on, please tell me. But thank you for sticking with me, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Bye.